What would it take to manifest something impossible? It's simpler than you think. And this is what I'm going to share with you in this video around quantum manifestation to manifest what is impossible. There's a lot of things that I'm going to discuss here, and they are deep concepts that are going to give you permanent results. So, if you are somebody who is serious about manifesting your deepest desire, then this will guide you how to do that. And everything that is written, there's an intention and there's a purpose behind it. In order to understand the depth of manifestation, I need you to be aware of few things before I take you into quantum manifestation and how to manifest impossible. The first thing you have to understand is the universe is multidimensional. It is not just one dimension. We are aware of the 3D. 3D is the physical plane. So the physical plane that we live in, that we see, that we smell, that we perceive, that we touch, right? That is a physical plane that we exist as a human being. But we are not just 3D. We are not just on physical plane. There are multiple planes that we exist in. The second one is intellectual plane. Intellectual plane is all about the intelligence and the mind. In the intellectual plane, we work on beliefs, we work on limitations, we work on the kind of behavior and the habits that are all intellectual plane, where we do mindset work, where we change our beliefs. That is intellectual plane that we are tapping into when we are doing that. Most people mostly focus on the physical and intellectual. Those are the two things people focus on. But the truth is, there is another plane. It's a spiritual plane. The spiritual plane is where, when you tap into, you are accessing higher frequency, higher knowledge, wisdom, and intuition and insights that comes from a spiritual plane, that we are tapping into the highest of the highest dimension where we are receiving the information. But not a lot of people are here. Most people are in intellectual or physical. Most people, I would say, are stuck in physical. They believe their reality, their circumstances are happening to them. So they are operating from the day-to-day things that life is happening to me, challenges are coming to me, and that is more physical plane idea. That is not intellectual, that is not spiritual. And a spiritual plane is infinite. There's infinite dimension on a spiritual plane, and we access our spiritual plane through our consciousness, conscious awareness. That's how we get connected to spiritual plane, when we are highly aware of that we are not just physical. We are more than that. We are multi-dimensional. When we start believing that idea, we start accessing it. But people who are super logical, super in the physical, super around how I can make money, how I can work hard, they are not accessing higher dimensions. They are very much focused on how to change things in the physical reality, but they are not thinking about the spiritual reality. They are not focusing on that plane at all. They are completely disconnected. This is why people who are most logical, they have to see it to believe it. And the truth is, in order to truly access your full potential, you have to believe it before you see it. You have to know it before you see it. This is why people who are super logical, they are disconnecting themselves from their infinite power. They're disconnecting themselves for their exponential growth. And this is where the work needs to start tapping into that higher dimension of energy and frequency and vibration. So all of us have an energetic field within us, around us, and we are vibrating certain energy all time, in every single second, in every single moment. We are all sending a signal consistently. Our energy or frequency is vibrating on a certain level all the time. And if we are operating from frustration, anger, pain, sadness, guilt, shame, resentment, we are creating a frequency of lack and creating a frequency of pain and sadness. And that frequency of sadness and pain creates more pain. Why? Because the signal, the frequency that we are vibrating, this is the signal we are sending in the universe. And that is the signal that is coming back to us. And that is what reflecting back to us. So this is why most people who even they do affirmation and they do meditation and they do journaling, they feel good for a moment, but they go back to their life after probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour of doing the inner work. They go back to their life around the pain, the challenge, the difficulty, the sadness, all of that. So they operate their dominant energy and frequency, the energetic field that they're operating is in sadness, in pain. So they can do an hour of meditation, but that would only change their frequency for a moment, but they go back to their life as they are. And that's why they would keep signaling to the universe the challenge, the pain, the sadness, the darkness, the difficulties. And this is super important to understand that, because before I talk about manifesting the impossible, we must understand actually what we are doing right now in the moment. So that once you understand how you are operating in your life fully, so if you look at 24 hours of your life, what do you notice? What do you witness? Do you see more pain? Or do you see more sadness? Or do you see more happiness? What is the majority of the time you're doing? Because whatever you're doing majority of the time, not doing but actually feeling, whatever you're feeling majority of the time, that is what creating your energetic field. So this is what you're vibrating 24/7, whatever you're feeling majority of the time. So if you're feeling sadness and feeling the life is tough, that wealth and abundance is hard, money is hard, life is difficult, people are mean, people are horrible to me, people take advantage of me, people misunderstand me, nobody loves me, nobody supports me. If that is the majority of the time, that is what you are thinking, or your environment is extremely negative and toxic, and you are constantly fighting the battles, trying to create the peace by fighting the battle, right? Internally, even when we don't speak, we are still fighting the battle internally, right? Not speaking also fighting the battle, because a lot of people, they want to not engage in their toxicity. They try to not confront people, but ultimately they're confronting their inner self. They're confronting themselves and shutting themselves down. They're suppressing, and that creates inner battle, right? So we are never free of that if we are living in that environment. The only way to be free is understand this. Once you understand this, you will become free. You will know how to completely permanently shift it so that you can manifest the impossible. So whatever you are then vibrating, it is what creating, because universe is a mirror. It reflects back to who you are. And what I want you to know, that regardless of how many changes in your life happened, even maybe on the outside life may look, in your home, maybe you moved away from the dysfunction, the toxicity, and you now in more peace. But if those stories or those pain are keep reappearing in your mind, then just trust that that's what you're creating again and again, over and over, right? Because we are what we think about most of the time. So if we are constantly thinking about our story, our past. So I'll give you an example. I ran away from my ex-in-laws at 20. So I was married super young. My parents married me off at 16, and I moved countries, and I was living in emotionally toxic and abusive home. And at 20, I decided to run away. I decided to run away at 20. I thought I am free. That's it. I'm free. I'm now free. I ran away. This is done. But the experience in that house was so traumatizing that that experience never left me. that experience never left me. So even though I ran away, but my body was still holding on to all that experience that I went through. So 20 ran away, 21 I got a divorce, and then I started working for banks, and then I kept progressing in my career. Then I eventually investment banks, then growing and being promoted in investment banking and all of that, right? But within me is this thing that is present that I've never dealt with. So because I never dealt with, I lived in that suffering for years, and I was repeating the same story, repeating the same shame, being divorced so young, not living my life, and all of that I was repeating over and over in my mind. The story, the story, the story. The story never left me. So what happened? Doesn't matter what I did, if I traveled, I met people, I thought that I was enjoying my life, but I wasn't. I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of emotional pain because I kept feeling nobody loves me, nobody see me, nobody really understand me because they don't understand my journey, they don't understand my pain. So I kept creating that story over and over in my mind. So I was stuck here. So in intellectual plane, I was creating a story that happened in the past over and over. So what I was doing, I was solidifying. I was solidifying what happened to me. I was solidifying the trauma. So I was over traumatizing myself without knowing. And then I was in pain. People didn't know how much pain I was in. It was very internal. And those people who carry a lot of internal pain and they look strong on the outside, but very, very internalizing all the pain, they are the one who experience invisible diseases, chronic diseases that people don't know there's something wrong with them. But they are suffering. So for example, what happened with me, I developed a shoulder issue, shoulder pain, a lot of pain out of nowhere. And why? Because I was carrying that burden for years, that story, that challenge, that trauma for years. So my body started speaking. The pain started coming through. And people didn't know. People don't know how much pain I was in because they never saw it, because I had a front, always smiling, always happy, always, in a good energy, but suffering from the inside. So what I was doing, I was using the intellectual plane to create the same trauma over and over. I was creating that, and my energetic field was polluted with that. Then my frequency was magnetizing people who were similar to that energy, who were similar to that pain. So all the narcissistic, all the toxic, all the psychotic bosses, all the terrible, terrible experiences, they would keep showing up in my life. Through friends, through people I met, through work environment, I kept attracting that, not knowing why, not knowing why. So I was perpetuating the same experience over and over. So that's how people get stuck. And this is very, very important to understand, how we keep ourselves stuck in the same place just because we experienced it once. And there's some beautiful, beautiful insight that came to me a while ago. First time when we get traumatized, it's somebody else's fault. But after that, every time we relive that experience, we are actually traumatizing our own self. We are the one who actually become our biggest enemy without knowing. And it took me years to understand that. But really, only once somebody else traumatized us. After that, it's us recreating those stories, those pain points. And it's not to blame. Just know that it's not to blame. It's just to become aware of how we are creating our suffering without knowing. And when you can understand that, you know that this story is not serving. And I knew my story wasn't serving me in any shape or form. Me living in that plane or intellectual plane of that suffering was not serving me. So this is why it is important to realize that how we are sending that frequency, because we are magnetizing that. We are magnetizing the same experience over and over. And then we experience the same thing over and over. So if you're somebody who wants to be successful in your business, you're successful in your career, you want to be wealthy and abundant, you want to make millions, but you are stuck in a space where you are not able to break through is usually around the story that you are carrying, around the belief system, around the story, around the life that you're living. And the deeper work you do on that, the more you release it, the more you can shift your energy and frequency faster. So this is why the guilt, shame, resentment, and judgment, it will keep perpetuating the same energy and frequency of guilt, shame, resentment, to meet more people who you will resent, to see more things that you will judge, to create more shame in your body, to feel more guilt in your body by meeting different people but the same energies. Different people but the same energies over and over. It's just like a trance that you keep living, you keep magnetizing, and people think, why am I suffering? I've done so much work. But what they don't realize, even though they do the work, but they do not embody the work. They can do the work through their intellectual mind. They can shift their mindset. They can work on the limiting beliefs. But the root of the trauma, root of their pain, sits in their core, sits in their body. And when it sits in their core, in their body, no amount of mindset work, no amount of work will change that. You must release it. By the way, I am doing a live event on 22nd of May for quantum expansion, to go deeper into the 3 steps, really powerful steps of manifesting the impossible. I will take this further in that live event. So if you want to really understand more deeply, because I cannot make this video very long, so join the event on 22nd of May, quantum expansion, to understand the 3 powerful steps to magnetize and manifest the impossible. So just to let you know, it will be happening very, very soon. You can click the link below to register for that event, where I can take you deeper, even more deeper than what I'm sharing right now. That live masterclass will serve you really well. So click the link below to register for that event. So that's why the core needs to be released of all the guilt, all the shame, all the judgment, all the resentment. And when you can release that, then your signal, your frequency signal starts changing. Your energetic field starts changing, right? That's when it starts changing. So what I want you to know, your reality, that what you're observing right now, it is past. It's already gone. It is your past identity manifested this moment. Okay? So if good things are happening right now, great. That means you manifested that. But if not so good things are happening, then you know that that is also you manifested that. We are always manifesting, either the positive or the negative. We are always manifesting. So really understand the reality that exists, that you see right now. It is the past. This is why we must not be attached to past. It does not exist. The table that I have here, it was made years ago. It exists, so I can touch it, I can feel it, but it's already created. So the creation already occurred. It's done. It was done a while ago, years ago. Now I can see it, I can touch it, but it was manifested in the past. So now it exists. So the reality you're observing, it is from the past, because everything that we see in the now, it is the past. This is why we must ignore our reality in order to manifest faster. If you really want to manifest faster, you must ignore the reality. So I'm going to go deeper into that in a moment. So now that you understand intellectual plane, now you understand energetic field, now you understand how we can block ourselves through the story and the shame and the guilt and the wounding that we are carrying. This is where the deeper work needs to happen. This is the work that I do with my clients, because people can spend years trying to resolve their life and they can never resolve it, because they, first of all, did not do the deepest work. Secondly, they never embodied. And the reason they don't embody, because they haven't done the deeper work in terms of releasing the root, the core of the wound. So this is why when I work with my clients who are leaders, who are visionaries, who are 7-8-figure entrepreneurs, and they're professionals, when I work with them, we really tap into releasing those core memory that are keeping them stuck. And when we can release it, we can shift their way of being. So their energetic field shifts and then they attract better. They are vibrating on a higher place, and then everything becomes effortless and easy. So now I want to talk to you about the desire side. Okay. So desiring something, there's two sides of desires. So when we desire something, actually, the deeper truth is the desire is lack if it is disassociated. So the disassociated desire is more of fantasy, more of like, okay, I would love it, but I don't believe it. I would love it, but I do not believe that to be true. It's usually come from an ego. It's more of an egoic thing. Yes, one day I will have this, but there's no congruency, there's no embodiment, there's no faith, there's no knowing. This is more disassociated desire that creates lack. And the disassociated desire is, oh yeah, one day I will be a millionaire, one day I will have a villa, but there's no energy there, there's no like movement there. There's just like, yeah, one day. This is like wishing something to happen, fantasizing, but really don't want it deeply. No, there's an energy of rejection. There's energy of I'm not worthy of it, so I'm just going to live in a fantasy world. I'm going to keep imagining and meditating and affirming, but truly deeply I don't believe it's going to happen. That is a disassociated desire. And in order to manifest the impossible, and by the way, when I say manifesting the impossible, so for your current version, it feels impossible. But the version of you that has it, for them, it is normal, it is natural. So this is why it is important. So even though something, let's say right now, maybe, so let's say your desire is to make 1 million, right? But if I say that you can make 10 million, right, you may feel that is impossible. But it is possible for the highest version of you that is experiencing 10 million, right? It's the identity and the energy that creates it. That's why, so let's say 10 million is impossible, or having the most loving divine relationship feels impossible right now, or something else, the wildest dream. Let's imagine your wildest dream. What could be the wildest thing? I want you to write it down. What would be the wildest thing that you could manifest that you can't even comprehend? But if that was the wildest thing you could manifest, what would that be? Just make a note of it. So disassociated. This disassociated is the ego. It's basically ego wants to create an illusion that things will get better. So it creates a fantasy that, oh, one day this will happen, one day things will be better, but it's all fantasy. So that because ego wants you to feel trapped in the illusion of it. And that's why a lot of people who operate from ego, they get easily offended. They are easily defensive, right? They don't want to hear anything. They're not interested because they are so caught up in their ego that they are better or they are superior or their life is better or is going to be better or whatever. They're so caught up in that they are not going to allow anything else to see. So they are living in illusion, a fantasy that is, they're disconnected, they are disassociated. They are not living in the truth. And that disassociation and illusion ultimately take them to a breakdown, ultimately. They go through deepest breakdown and hopefully breakthrough if they choose to, but some people stay stuck there. The other part is the one that manifests your desire is the associated desire. Associated desire is you reach that level of association on 3 levels. First, you want it. Second, you believe that it is possible. The third is you know it is going to happen. So wanting, believing, and knowing. So when you can want it, believe it, and know it, you are in association with your desire. And when you are associated with your desire, you are then ready to manifest the deepest, the highest, the wildest dream, the impossible, whatever that word is. But ultimately, you need to reach a level of belief that ultimately it becomes the knowing. So the knowing, how do you know that it's going to happen? You know it by releasing any fear, any doubt, any limitation, so that your energy, your vibration, and the version of you is moving into that identity. That's how you know it. So if somebody wants to be a speaker on a stage, how would they know that they will become a speaker? So let's say somebody who came from a very difficult background, they were super shy, they're low self-esteem, and they're uncertain that if they can be a speaker. How would they believe that they will become a speaker? So they will take aligned step. If they really feel like, I want to make that my reality, they're going to take aligned step. How would they take? They would work on their limiting beliefs. They would work on their confidence. They would work on their self-esteem. They would work on speaking. So they might take a small step. Maybe they start speaking with 2 people or 3 people. They're presenting something. They're presenting in a small room. They're presenting in a slightly bigger room, maybe 10 people, maybe 15 people. And then that's how they're shifting. So by the time they probably reach 15 people they can present to, or 20 people they present to, and then slowly their knowing is becoming like, oh yeah, I can speak. Their confidence, they're embodying it. They're embodying this new version of them who is standing on stage and speaking. So by 20 or 30 or 40 people, when they're spoken, they're now embodying and integrating that, yes, it can become true, it can be possible. And that's how they can move into the identity of somebody who speaks on stage. So they may have to take a big quantum leap by taking that risk, because there's always a fear. It doesn't matter how confident you are, you would always have a fear around going on a stage, speaking in front of people, right? So that's why we have to take the leap. That's why the leap is crucial. If you want to make your manifestation faster, you must take the leap. So after 40 people, let's say book a place and invite 100 people to listen to them. That is a leap. 100 people is a leap for somebody who is only speaking for 20 or 40 people. And then ultimately they're like 100, or now I'm going to go 1,000. Because once they've spoken to 100 people on stage, 1,000 will be like the same, just multiplying the frequency, multiplying the energy. That's it. So that's how these ladder of beliefs, ladder of steps and aligned action can take you there. Right? So this is why it is important to really have associated desire in order to manifest faster. This is the key. So I want to go here. This is really, really important. So in quantum, all the creation that you see, it happens in a quantum field. Quantum field is all creative, imaginative field. So like I said earlier, your reality is the past. So how would you create a new reality? Would you create something that becomes your future? Is by tapping into the quantum, this energetic field. How do you tap into this energetic field? You tap into this energetic field is by deeply connecting, not just visualizing, but actually step by step seeing how it will unfold. That is the difference. So how can you move into your imagination knowing that is the reality? This is the reality. This is the past. This is an illusion. It's no longer exists. What you're witnessing in your life, the challenge, the pain, the darkness, any of the difficulties, they are past. They are not real anymore, even though they are being presented to you in the moment, but they no longer exist. They are past creation. So in order to create the impossible, you must tap into that. So if you want to manifest 10 million, you want to not visualize 10 million. No, you don't visualize the 10 million. You want to visualize, you want to tap into the field of what vessel that I need to create that can bring 10 million. What is that vessel, that infinite? What kind of opportunity or business idea? So you keep seeing that. You can see the 10 million in your bank account, and maybe you can start with that, seeing 10 million in your bank account. By the way, I'm just giving you that example as 10 million. You can have any example. Anything that you feel is like your wildest dream, put that in there. I'm just giving you this example. So when you visualize 10 million in your bank account, I want you to focus on how you are receiving that 10 million. So you can see the 10 million in your bank account, but how are you receiving that? Now you can start seeing that how am I receiving that? And for the first time, it may not, no answer may come in, no insight may come in, but for few days, you keep visualizing, not just on 10 million, but how am I receiving that? Where is it coming from? That is you're tapping onto the creative field now in the quantum, because when you say where is it coming from and why is it coming, you're questioning that, and that will start creating, the answer will start dropping in. And one day you may get an insight, an idea that, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, or maybe that could be a way. And that's when you are tapping in the creation field. That's how you get the insight of manifesting that 10 million, by getting into the state of seeking from that idea of 10 million. So this is why we are ignoring the reality. Whatever you are witnessing, even if you're witnessing the empty bank account or lower income, or you're witnessing the income that you're not fully satisfied with, you don't want to pay attention to that. You want to pay attention to the quantum, the energetic field where you're creating that idea. Where am I receiving that 10 million? How am I receiving? Really see the step by step. Maybe in the beginning it would not make sense, but eventually will start making sense. And that's how you start associating. So when I was working for 9 to 5 job and I wanted to start my business, I was creating in my head. I didn't know what business before even I had the idea of doing this work that I do, before I even knowing that I am a healer and I have these intuitive gift. Even before that, I wanted to have a business, but I had no idea what. I had no idea, but I kept creating. Okay, maybe this, maybe that, maybe something else. And I'm just in that state that I'm living in that state. I'm actually living in that state. I'm ignoring everything that is happening. I'm ignoring the life that I have at work. I'm ignoring all of it. But I'm creating. And then the spiritual awakening, then intuitive abilities heightened. Then this idea of being a healer showed up. It showed up. I didn't know anything about it. It just channeled through. Because I was tapping into that idea of I want to do something meaningful. And then the idea showed up. And then it's just the journey unfolded by itself. So I didn't know anything. I don't know anyone in my family, in my friend circle who do what I do. Nobody. So I haven't been inspired by anyone who I know of. I didn't even knew that is a work, this type of work, doing the deep healing work. It's just unfolded by itself. And everything became so clear that I could not ignore it. And I had to own it. I had to embody it. I had to honor it. So when I started my YouTube channel, it started working. It just happened. And now I'm a successful entrepreneur who does soul-led work, that aligned work. It all came from this quantum state. So this quantum state is the state of creation. It's the field of everything that you want to create. You create here. This is where the creation happens, and you have the power to create. Most people do not tap into their power because they feel there's something wrong with them. They're broken, they're damaged, their life story. And if I kept myself stuck in that life story, I had more odds than most people in a lot of ways, because I had no family. I ran away. I had no home. I was divorced at such a young age. I was traumatized at such a young age. I had no money. I had literally nothing. And so odds were against me in every possible way. And if I can create that, then anyone can. Anyone can. Anyone. Whether that is my Instagram reaching millions of people, whether my YouTube reaching millions of people, whether creating this business that is so aligned, so deeply connected to my soul in every possible way, it lights me up in every possible way. I had no idea that I would be doing that. 5 years ago, even, I had no idea in a bigger way that I have now created this work in a very bigger way. I had no idea that it's possible. But because the creation was happening, I kept visualizing, and I am not done yet. There's a bigger plan. There's something huge coming through, and I am creating that in my quantum field. This is where I'm creating what the biggest thing that are coming through, and I hopefully will be able to share that with you. But this is how. One of the example I can give you that I can talk about is that long time ago that I would love somebody to make movie on my story, but I don't know anybody from a industry or a film industry or any film related people. I don't know anyone. So in my mind, I created that idea. I would love somebody to make a movie on my story, right? That's an idea created. I already created. I loved it. I imagined it. I saw myself being interviewed by people on TV. I'm being interviewed. I see myself talking about it. I saw myself in big television shows that I'm speaking about it. Those are things I created in my mind a while, long time ago. And then I forgot about it. I was detached. I was not attached. I was not seeking anyone from film industry. I was just thought about it. I created it. I saw it. I visualized it. So I created in the quantum field. What happened? Then after probably a few years, because I was so detached, I was not too focused on it. After a few years, I met somebody who is a director and a producer who wants to make a movie on my story. He worked on Gladiator, and I met him by coincidence. It happened. How? I have no idea. But I created that in my mind first, and it appeared in my physical reality. It appeared not by coincidence, even though I'm saying coincidence, nothing is coincidence, right? Because I created it, it manifested. So that is manifesting something impossible, because I have no way of having somebody who I would know from any film industry, and suddenly somebody appears in my reality who is a director, who is a producer, who wants to make a movie on my story. How? Right? You say, how does that happen? It happened in the quantum first. This is where it happens. It happens here first. Nothing appears in your reality until it is created here. Most people are creating their pain and suffering here, and they are manifesting pain and suffering. Most people manifesting fear of money. They are like afraid of money. They're afraid of spending money. They're afraid of losing money. They're afraid of not having enough money. So they are creating what they're creating. They're creating that. That's what they're creating. They're creating not having enough money. And then in their reality, they have not enough money. That's what's happening. And this is why, in order to manifest the impossible, you must think about the things that you truly desire, the wildest dream. Wanting my story to be in a movie is a wildest dream, right? Somebody who had no connection, no idea, came from a very broken place, nothing, like no, not from a rich family, no, nothing, right? That is a wildest dream. But I had that idea, that thought came to me, and I was like, yeah, I would love it. I would love that. But I wasn't attached to it. I wasn't desperate for it. I was like not needing it. I wasn't like focused so much on it. I created it and it appeared. It appeared because I was so detached. I was not attached to it. I would love it, but I don't need it, right? That's the difference. I would love it, but I don't need it. That is the state of being. That is the energy you want to be in, that I would love it, but I don't need it. Anything. I would love 10 million, but I don't need 10 million. I would love a villa, but I don't need a villa. I would love a divine partnership with somebody, but I don't need a divine partnership. That is a detached state of being that manifests the impossible. So start creating creating. First of all, focus on what have you been creating. Because everything you're imagining, people imagine worst case scenario. I want you to start imagining best case scenario and see step by step. And when you start seeing step by step, you are actually molding and shifting your reality. You are manipulating your reality in your favor, not in a bad way, in a good way. That is the power of your being. You can create that. I can create whatever I desire. I am co-creating with divine frequency and energy. And that is the power every human being has if they tap into the higher spiritual plane. And when you start creating your best case scenarios, the best case scenario is what can happen every single day, every morning, the best case scenario. See it, really see it. And then see the step by step. How is happening? How is it happening? It doesn't have to be correct steps. What does that do? So for example, if you want a villa, so just imagine I want this villa. It looks like this. There's a beach, there's an ocean, there's a palm tree. You can see the windows are huge, curtains are flying, and there's a lot of light. It's very open. There's so much light, and I can see it. I can feel it. I can feel the breeze, and I can hear the ocean, and I can see the palm tree, and I can really feel it. And now what are the steps? How am I going to have this? How I'm going to have it? I'm going to start looking for it. How I'm going to start looking for it? I am going to see that I'm going to estate agents and the websites, and I'm calling all these realtors or agents to view this villa. That is the step. I'm only doing in the quantum. I'm not physically. I'm first doing here. So I am seeing it. I'm seeing it that I'm calling people, I'm making calls, and I'm speaking to people. And then I see that I get connected with somebody. I see somebody say, hi, yeah, this villa is available. Then I see that we go there. And then I am now viewing that villa. These are the steps. Now you are creating. You're not just visualizing, you are creating it. That is the difference. That's how you manifest the impossible. Now you can see the step by step. Now you can start moving into that idea. Okay, now I've seen that, I've viewed. Now I have the money. I paid for it easily and effortlessly. Now I'm moving into that villa. These are the steps. These are the steps. It's all happening in the quantum. And you will be surprised how quickly things start shifting for you, because you are now creating from the quantum, from a place of best case scenarios, rather than creating from the past, creating from the story, creating from the pain, creating from the resentment and anger and sadness and the challenge. And quantum creation is the now. That is the now. So believing that, living in that creation, 24/7 most of the time, as long as you can, keep living in that, and you start shifting, you start manifesting the impossible. These are the way you do it. That is the way. No one will tell you that, but this is the way to do it. And once you do it, once you can do it, and if anything is stopping you, anything is coming in the way, fear, anxiety, doubt, that means you are operating from unworthiness, operating from not enoughness, and there's identity blocks that needs to be fixed, that needs to be resolved. Then that is the work that I do for you to shift yourself completely, fully, to become the embodiment of that identity that has that villa, that has that 10 million, that has all of it. That has it. Because the body needs to be integrated to the vision. Because if the body is not integrated to the vision, it will not manifest. This is why the deep work needs to happen in order to have the quantum shifts and quantum leaps, in order to manifest it, bring it into the 3D reality. And if you want to do that work, then you can click the link below to apply for my mentoring, where we do deep embodiment work to release the barriers and the invisible blocks, to shift your identity and to move you into your wealth and abundance identity. And if that's something you deeply desire this year, then click the link below to apply for my mentoring. Other than that, quantum expansion happening on 22nd. You can register for that below as well. And I look forward to taking you through that, and also explaining even more the steps, some of the steps that you need to know that are really powerful. And if you're interested in that, click the link below and we can go deeper into it. With that, like this video if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel. And may the light in me reaches the light in you.